What is up, fellow nerds, and welcome back to the Dapper Snapper Gaming channel. Now, today we're going to be doing another episode of the State of the Meta. Now, the reason we do this every month. We take a look at the tier changes that have just happened to all of our major Smogon tiers, and we're going to talk about all of them briefly and just see how those are going to affect everything going forward. You know, what has now entered OU, what has left OU, and just interesting stuff. You know, I usually play OU on the channel, and so I use pretty much anything I want. But you know, we'll just have to see what everyone else is thinking is really good versus not so good, and we'll just see what I think about it. So yeah, so let's go ahead and look at what has made a rise. These awesome graphics come to you every single month by Kalalaki. He or she, I don't know, always does a really good job with these awesome pictures, showing us all of the changes in a really easy to read format. So big shout out to that person right there. But we have Hippowdon and Torkoal coming up to OU, which is pretty cool. Hippowdon serves a really big role in that it not only sets up sand, but it's also a really, really nice physical wall, especially in UU. And so now a lot of things are going to be opened up. The main thing I'm thinking of is Deblade. Offensive Deblade is really nice in UU, and this was his biggest check. And so now that's gone. So I feel like offensive Deblade is going to run pretty rampant in UU, and Torkoal moving from RU to OU is pretty huge because we're just losing all of our weather setters that would have been lower tier. They're all coming up to OU now just because of the drops of everything else. So Home coming out mid-month honestly completely shook up the metagame for February, and so that's why you're going to see these drastic changes like that. The reason Torkoal is around so much is because of Venusaur. Venusaur is absolutely amazing in Sun, and also regular Darmanitan. Regular Darmanitan really appreciates Sun as well, and you'll notice he stayed in OU. He's not on this chart. So yeah, he appreciates the Sun support, and Torkoal honestly is really, really nice this gen. Having such bulk that he does, as well as having access to Stealth Rock, Rapid Spin, he's a Drought Setter. Like, Sun is actually really viable this generation, and I'm really loving it because I've always wanted Sun to be good. It's just never been nearly as good as Rain, and Sand was like the weather at the beginning of the generation, and it's since waned off just a little bit, and Rain kind of has taken over, but Sun is making a run for it now, and I'm really happy to see that. I love all of that. We also have Gigalith moving up to UU. So RU loses a weather setter in Gigalith. It is able to set up the sand stream, and so now it comes up to UU. So there are things in RU that Gigalith checked. It's also a really nice wall, and so basically now it's supposed to be replacing the Hippowdon, but I really don't think he's gonna, just because, you know, Deblade can still break through this. There are a lot of things in the UU tier that can really break this, and one of those being Machamp. Machamp is super strong, and I think him moving up is pretty cool for him. I think he's a really good mon. He's strong, he's just a little slow, but I think he's cool, and I think moving up to UU makes sense. It just makes sense to me. Us getting Mantine and Sylveon Fairy. Man, when's the last time that we said that Silvally was actually viable and worthy of actually raising tiers? Yeah, Silvally's nice this generation just because everything is so slow. I wouldn't expect this thing to stick around in RU much longer. Just once we start getting a lot of our speedy boys back with the June drop, and then as well as once we get everything this fall, yeah, he'll drop back down. Every single typing will drop back down just because he'll just be getting beat by literally everything. But during this metagame, while all of the fast boys are, you know, chilling in OU, it allows things that are base 95 to actually shine. And so that's kind of where Silvally is sitting right now. That 95 speed, 95 bulk, everything. it does okay in the lower tiers. And Fairy is a really potent offensive typing, and so I think he's going to do pretty decent in RU. He probably will end up dropping back down very soon. I really don't expect to see him stick around all that much. Mantine is cool because it can sweep in the rain, but obviously there are no rain setters down in RU, so you have to really raise him up if you want to make him useful. He's got a really nice special defense stat as well. He's really bulky, but obviously his typing isn't the best, especially with things like Raichu chilling down there. And so yeah, him moving up is pretty cool. I don't think he's all that overpowered. I really wish they had buffed him a little bit more. You remember that they buffed him going into Sun and Moon, give him a little bit of a stat boost, but it just wasn't really enough to really help him. So now we've got the drops, and the drops I think are a little more interesting just because there are so many of them. So Crawdont drops right back down to BL, which I think is pretty funny. He just made it up to OU, and I was talking him up so much in last month's episode, and then now he let me down, and now he's back down to BL. So it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. He's a good boy. I really like Crawdont. Adaptability with water moves and knockoff is really awesome. It's really strong, and I think this mon is really nice. But the more I think about it, and the more that I've seen it used, and the more I've used it myself, the more I'm starting to think that BL is probably where he just needs to stay. I think he's a little too good for UU, but he's just not quite good enough for OU. I don't think he has a place. So unless the meta changes up majorly within the next little bit, he's probably going to stick around UUBL. So yeah, I think it's a good call. I think it's just where he ends up being. So next we've got all of our drops. And so the reason that a lot of this is dropping is for a couple of reasons. One, this is a lot of our new stuff that was dropped just this month. And so basically they've only been in the running for half a month. And so they haven't had as many games as everything else has to really find their usage statistics. But it also makes it interesting for certain other things that are missing from this chart. And I think honestly what's missing is a little more important than what isn't missing, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But so we've got Blastoise, who dropped, which just gained Shell Smash. So yeah, he's pretty good. He's got the buffed Rapid Spin, which is nice, but I think that he's just a little too he just doesn't hit quite hard enough. He's really slow, so even with the Shell Smash, he's not going to outspeed things like Dragapult reliably, especially since Dragapult runs Scarf most of the time and Thunderbolt, so that kind of holds back Blastoise. So yeah, it's rough for him. Celebi. Now Celebi is man, I wish Celebi was a lot better. I love Celebi so much, but it's just not as good as what I wish it was. And the biggest reason is that its typing is literally the worst typing in the game, tying with Cacturn and the new boy Zarude. And there's another typing as well. I think it's Abomasnow's typing of Grass Ice, but they have 7 weaknesses, which is ridiculous. It is the most weaknesses of any dual typing, and so it just makes it really hard for this thing to shine. However, at base 100 speed, you can't discount this thing just yet, especially since it really helps to check Seismitoad. So I don't know. I think that this thing might end up being decent. And if you checked out our episode of Taking Them to School from yesterday, featuring my wife, that'll be up in the iCard above, we ran a Scarfed Celebi, which was a very unconventional bring, and I'm telling you, he put in the work. So don't be sleeping on Celebi. I think he's okay. Really good offensive typing, really bad defensive typing. We'll just have to see where he lands. Cobalion. Now, Cobalion I was really hoping would stay up there because I think Cobalion is actually really strong. I don't think he's as strong as Terrakion. He's just not. But I do think he has a place. He still has a really good attack stat. He's still really fast, comparatively speaking, in the metagame. And he's got a decent move pool. He has Volt Switch. He has Stealth Rocks. He has Close Combat. Iron Head. He's got all kinds of tech that really only he can have. And so I really think he's got a really interesting niche that he fills. And so I don't know. He may come back up to OU. I think it's very possible that he comes back up to OU. once we have a little more time. And like I said, all of these mons that are dropping, they've only had half a month in order to get their stats. And so it really goes to show you, and that's why I'm telling you it's so important for the things that didn't drop, because they only had half the time, and then they beat out things that did have the full time. So it's really crazy, but we'll get to that here in just a second. Regular Corsola, yeah, that thing sucks. Decidui is one of those mons that it's just almost good. It's just right there at being really good, but yeah, he's just a little lackluster. He does get 2 forms of priority, Sucker Punch and Shadow Sneak. He gets Leaf Blade, which hits really hard. He now gets the Leaf, Leaf Blade, rather than the, I don't even remember, Solar Blade, that's what it's called. He gets access to that if you want to run it on a Sun team, but he's a little slow. Yeah, it's tough. He's just a little too slow, and it's unfortunate because he has such a cool design. I love him a lot, but he's just not going to make it. We've got the Alolan Dougie, Mr. Fabio himself, and unfortunately he's going to drop. He's just nowhere near as good as his Cantonian counterpart. He's just not. I mean, the steel typing doesn't help, and Tangling Hair doesn't help. His move pool isn't as good. He's just not as good. I mean, it's just, there's just no other way around it. He's just not good, and he will probably continue to drop. Regular Farfetch'd, not talking about it. Gyarados. Now, Gyarados is an interesting drop for sure, because Gyarados has been around since the beginning of this metagame, and it really dominated there at the beginning. It really appreciated Dynamax. Gyarados was really strong during Dynamax, but he's really started to wane off and not be nearly as good as he was. And so, yeah, he's just become kind of underwhelming. Even Dragon Dance sets, you know, he can't bounce for the speed boosts anymore to have the max airstream. He's just missing a lot of his tech now, and so it's just unfortunate. But yeah, I think he is a little underwhelming now, and so the drop to UU really doesn't surprise me at all. Incineroar is one of those mons that is also almost good. Now, he did get access to Parting Shot, which I think is really great for him. He gets Close Combat now, which is really awesome as well. And I think those 2 moves are really going to help him to be a lot more viable. And I think he'll really do well in UU, as well as having Intimidate. There aren't many Intimidate users out there, and so anything that has it is nice, especially that he gets Intimidate and Bulk Up. And with this metagame being so physically oriented, that set might end up being somewhat useful. I don't know. I think it has some utility, but again, the metagame is still very young of him being in it, and so we're not really sure where he's going to end up landing. I think UU is about as high as he's ever going to get. He will probably drop at least to RU though, if I'm guessing correctly. Regular Lanoon, basically the only thing that he does is Belly Drum and then Extreme Speed. It's super situational, but I mean, with Seed Bomb, it's nice. I mean, he can do well, but do I think he's OU caliber? No, not really. So I think the drop makes sense. We've got Meltan, no. Necrozma. Now, Necrozma is really cool, but again, I think he's just a little too lackluster on his stats. I do think that a Rock Polish or a Totemize set could be really nice on this thing, as well as Stored Power, setting up like Calm Minds and that sort of thing, but I think that he just takes too much setting up to become useful. He did get access to Dragon Dance, if I'm not mistaken, this gen, which is pretty awesome for him, but again, I just don't think it's going to be enough for him to be amazing. His stats are just leave a little bit to be desired, and it's just unfortunate. For such a cool design, I don't think he's going to make it. UU, we're getting a Hail Setter in UU that is actually really nice. Now, the one thing about Alolan Ninetales that I think is interesting is that it's very one-sided. Usually with this thing, you're going to run Veil, and that's about it. And then he just kind of dies. That's really its most useful set, is to come in, set Hail, set the Veil, and then live on a Sash, and then die. that's about it. So yeah, I can see why it's dropping as a one-dimensional thing. You know, it does get access to like sub and nasty plot and freeze dry, moonblast, all that stuff, but I mean, you're just better off setting Veil with it, and basically that's just all it does, because it's really frail. It's just not good. It's unfortunate, but I don't know. We also have Alolan Persian. Alolan Persian it's tough because he does get access to Parting Shot, which is really good. He gets the Farcoat ability, which helps to make him really bulky on the physical side. But ultimately, that pure dark typing isn't the best. I mean, it's not bad. It's really not bad at all, but it's not the best. And his stats are just underwhelming. He's just an underwhelming form. And if he had some better stats, like a better defense stat, better HP, I think he would do pretty well as like a niche physical wall. But I just think he's a little too lackluster. It's just not for me. Primarina. Now, I think Primarina has the potential to be a really strong UU threat, and I really don't think that this thing should drop much lower, especially now that it has access to Calm Mind and Draining Kiss. Those, I think, are the two biggest things for it. So now it gets an ability to boost not only its super high special attack, but also its special defense. And it gets healing now with Draining Kiss. It can heal itself, which I think is absolutely awesome. Now, it does have to watch out for anything physical that's coming in, because its physical defense isn't that great, but I think that this thing could be really, really nice. So yeah, I think Primarina can be really good this gen. We showed it off a little bit also in yesterday's episode of taking them to school. So yeah, I think it's a good boy. I think he's really cool. I think he's really fun. Alolan Raichu. Alolan Raichu really isn't great. Yeah, his stats just aren't great. His typing isn't great either. The psychic typing doesn't help him. I think it gives him more weaknesses to things than what he really appreciated before. So yeah, I don't like his typing. And the only good terrain setter right now is Pincurchin. We don't have any Tapu Koko, so his main partner doesn't exist right now. So yeah, there's just a lot of things just dragging this thing down. It's just not going to be good yet. Once Tapu Koko comes around, maybe, but then like you've got Tapu Koko, so why do you need this? So yeah, it's just he just gets outclassed by a lot, and so it's just unfortunate having to set your own terrain now that Dynamax isn't a thing. Yeah, in Dynamax I think he could be decent, because he essentially just works like Excadrill if Excadrill were to use the rock type move. And then he gets his Sandstream. He could just use an electric type move and then get his Surge Surfer. But Dynamax is banned. So yeah, he's not going to get his speed boost. And that's really the only thing that like is defining for him and really sets him apart and makes him special. And he's just not going to be able to pull it off. So it's unfortunate. Regular Rapidash. Regular Rapidash, I think, has always just been a little underwhelming. It's got a decent move pool, and it's got okay stats, but they're just okay. And so it's just a little underwhelming, and especially when you have things like Darmanitan running around. Why would you run this when you have Darmanitan? You're not going to. There's literally no reason. The only difference is Wild Charge. This thing gets Wild Charge, and regular Darmanitan doesn't. But it can cover basically anything it wants already, so yeah, there's no reason to even worry about it. Rotom Cut getting dropped back down, which is pretty interesting. Last month was the first time we've had 3 Rotom forms in OU at once, and I thought that was absolutely awesome. And this one is the lesser of the 3, so if anyone was going to drop, it was going to be this one. But I think it's cool seeing him back down in UU. I think he can do a lot of work. You know, Sun teams are a thing now, especially seeing like Torkoal rising up. Venusaur with Weather Ball, which we'll get to in just a second, is also a thing. Yeah, there's just a lot out there that's really pushing this thing down now that wasn't there before, or at least wasn't as prominent. And so it's just a lot of stuff really just making this thing completely useless. Regular Stunfisk, I don't care. Toxtricity dropping. Now, Toxtricity dropping is very interesting, because this thing's been in OU since we had the drop of, you know, Sword and Shield. But at the same time, he wasn't super reliant on Dynamax like Gyarados was. He was just a good mon. You know, you've got the Shift Gear set, you've got the Throat Spray set, and usually you're pretty good. He's got decent, you know, his coverage really helps to cover him a lot. You know, Overdrive, Sludge Bomb, Sludge Wave, and Boom Burst. That's basically all you needed, and you really covered a lot of things. But yeah, now he's just not really cutting it anymore. You know, you've got Drill, which completely walls him, which has always been a problem for him. Excadrill always just beats this thing 1v1 no matter what. You know, you've got, I'm trying to think what else really counters this. Anything with Earthquake, which of course ground is the strongest offensive typing in the game. And so him being quad weak to that's always been something that has worked against him. So I mean, it's bound to happen. It was bound to happen, but I didn't think it would be this soon. I thought it would be a little later once we had a little more development in the metagame. But I see it. I get it. I understand. Venusaur dropping. I really thought that Venusaur was going to stay in OU, just with how popular he's been lately. With how Sun has been so good. He's been on every Sun team. Him and Darmanitan. But the only thing about it is, and the reason that he's not up here in OU is because he needs the Sun in order to be good. Darmanitan doesn't. Darmanitan is just good. Just how he is, stock, you run a choice item, and he's going to win. And that's it. With this, you have to have the Sun for your speed boost. You have to have the Sun in order for your Weather Ball to be a fire type move. You just need that other factor in order to make yourself good. So it's just unfortunate. Virizion is the least of the Three Musketeers, so it's just nowhere near as good as it used to be. Or well, I mean, it was never like super good, but it's decent. I think it's an okay mon. I think it's got good enough stats to stick around UU or RU. But, I mean, that's about it. Like, he gets decent coverage on both the physical and the special side. Calm Mind, Swords Dance. He gets good coverage. He gets a lot of good stuff. It's just barely not there. His stats just barely aren't there. His move pool just barely isn't there. He's just so close. But he's just countered by a lot of things. You know, he's going to struggle a lot with Wheezing, Alolan Wheezing. Or not Alolan Wheezing, Galarian Wheezing. He's going to struggle a lot with both of those once he gets down here if he's running the physical set. If you're running the Calm Mindset, you're going to die to Strange Steam or, Sludge Bomb or Sludge Wave. And, of course, him being so prominent in UU, yeah, it's going to struggle here too. So that's just unfortunate. UU to RU. Barraskewda dropping down to RU. This thing was OU just a couple months ago, and it's now down to RU. Now, I've been fighting for the fact that this thing has been underwhelming for a while, but I didn't think it was RU underwhelming. I mean, he's really fast, and he's got a decent attack stat, and so I think he's just getting beaten out by just everything in the UU tier. You know, he gets walled by a lot in the tier, and so I think he's just, even though he's fast, he's just not quite hitting hard enough, and he just doesn't quite have the right moves in order to take out what he needs to. So it's unfortunate. It really is. So, but I mean, it is what it is. It is what it is. It's sad. Colossal, man, I love Colossal so much, but he's just not good. He's really bad speed, obviously, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're bad. But then his offenses are only like base 80. Why? I mean, this thing looks like it should be an absolute volcano, like a literal volcano, and you come near this thing and you die. And then he has base 80, which is so underwhelming. It's just silly how underwhelming this mon ended up being on the offensive side. So yeah, I know we had that little gimmick in doubles where you get surfed by your teammate, and then you get your steam engine up, and then you have your weakness policy and all that stuff. But like, even with the weakness policy, you don't pick up major KOs. Like, it's ridiculous just how weak this thing actually is. So yeah, I understand. Yeah, Kaparaja, man, I love Kaparaja. I wish Kaparaja wasn't dropping, but he's really slow, but he's decently bulky. And he does have Heat Crash, he does have Heavy Slam. He gets a lot of really good coverage. Play Rough, Power Whip. I mean, he's a cool boy. He really is. But he's just also a little underwhelming, especially on that special side. Yeah, he's just not gonna be able to make it. It's unfortunate, but he's just not. Cramorant, oh man, the dirt bird. Cramorant really is an interesting mon. It does something that no other mons can do, and that is hit your opponent after they've hit you, given that you've used a certain move. And so, like, and it also allows you to lower their defense or to paralyze them just for hitting you, which puts him in a really niche and really awesome position. And there was, of course, that Demon Cramorant set that we talked about in our competitive decks guide to using him. But, you know, besides that, I think Cramorant is just kind of useless in singles. I think he's just a little too weak. He's just a little too frail. And his gimmick is just a little too gimmicky. I mean, it's good. It really is a good gimmick, but it's just a little too gimmicky for me. Indeedee, and I believe this is Indeedee female. I don't even know. Or no, this is male. Male has the hair up. Female has it down. Male is also the one with Trick Room. And so it's interesting to see him dropping down. He is our premier Psychic Surge user. It's the only thing that can set Psychic Terrain by switching in right now. Obviously, besides its female counterpart. But it's interesting to see the one that can set Trick Room dropping down to RU. Just having that kind of utility. It's interesting. I think it's cool. I haven't used Indeedee very much at all, so I really don't know a whole lot about it, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, he's okay in doubles with Follow Me and stuff. That's what I've seen mostly. I haven't really seen him much in singles. I just don't. I really don't really have much of an opinion. Galarian Slowpoke, who cares? We've got Eldegoss dropping to NU. Eldegoss is, I think, is going to be a pretty nice Rapid Spinner down in NU, as well as Leech Seed, just a bulky grass type. I think he'll do well in NU, actually, and I think that's where he belongs. I don't think he really can be any higher. His stats are just not good. They're just not, well, at least they're just not as good as what they could be. But yeah, it's unfortunate. He's decent though. We've got Frostlass dropping. Frostlass dropping is pretty cool because that's now going to be an awesome spike setter. It sets spikes. It uses Destiny Bond. It's got a pretty cool typing in Ice Ghost. It's very cool typing. Very cool mon. It's just super frail. It's got decent speed though, and it does have access to spikes, which makes him, it gives him some utility for sure. But yeah, he's just a little underwhelming just where he is so frail. And Turtonator, last one on this list. Turtonator has always just been this really underwhelming mon. You know, it does get Shell Smash, which is pretty cool, but in order to really do anything, you have to get 2 Shell Smashes because he's so slow. So yeah, he's just not good. Even with all the sass, the attitude of turning around, and he doesn't even want to look at you. You know, just a lot of people don't want to look at him either, just because he's just not that great. So yeah, it's unfortunate. But so now, before we move on to actually looking at the tiers themselves, I want to jump over here on Showdown and take a look at the current OU tier, and let's look at what made it past the drop. Now, there's not much, but right here you see Darmanitan. Darmanitan made it from home to OU and did not drop. And that just goes to show you how in half a month, Darmanitan managed to stay in OU, even though it had half the time that everything else did. That just goes to show you how strong this thing is. Base 140 attack, coming off a Flare Blitz, and he has base 95 speed, just like his Galarian counterpart did. And yeah, he hits like a truck. He hits like an absolute truck. He's crazy. With a Scarf, Band, anything, just everything dies. And base 105 HP, that's insane too. Let's see, what else made it? Jirachi. I love Jirachi. I love Jirachi this generation. I love its typing. I think Serene Grace plus flinching with Iron Head, paralyzing with Body Slam, all of that, really awesome. I love Jirachi's design. I love it. I think it's a great mon. It's great. It's awesome. I love it. And also base 100 and everything. It can be bulky. It can be fast. It can do anything you want it to do, physical or special. It gets great move pool on both sides. It's a good boy. Keldeo. Now, Keldeo staying in OU, I think, is a little more surprising, and that's because really his coverage has always been so bad. I mean, if we look at Keldeo here, so let's look at this. Air Slash, that is new, and that is great. Him getting access to Air Slash is absolutely amazing. He also gets Focus Blast, which is really great on the special side. We get Sacred Sword, of course, which is interesting. You're not going to use it though. Secret Sword we are going to use. That's his signature move, which makes him the Resolute form. But yeah, basically getting access to Air Slash, that's huge because he's never had that kind of coverage before, and he still doesn't have any ice type coverage outside of Icy Wind, which is garbage. So, you know, it is unfortunate, but Air Slash is at least a decent move, and Keldeo is pretty quick at 108, especially considering, you know, where we're at. And 125 special attack is pretty strong too. So I love that he's here. I think it's absolutely amazing that he has survived the drops and everything. And Kyurem. Now, Kyurem is the one that I am the most excited about staying in OU. Covered him in a competitive decks episode just recently, and him getting access to Freeze Dry has single-handedly turned him into a meh mon into a really nice mon, because coming off a base 130 special attack, now that he has Freeze Dry, there's almost nothing that can wall him. He has really good coverage. Base 95 speed, as we've seen, is pretty decent in this metagame. Yeah, he's good now. Regular Kyurem is actually good, and he's good enough to have stayed here even though he only had half the time. I think regular Kyurem is going to be really, really nice. I do see him dropping eventually down to at least UU once we get some more Pokemans up in here, especially once we get the Tapus back. I do think that Kyurem will drop, but for now, I think Kyurem's going to be a really cool threat in OU, and I'm excited to actually use him on a team. I haven't used him yet on a team on the channel, but I'm planning it. I'm working on making some teams with some of these boys. Did anything else make it? Zeraora. Yeah, Zeraora. We've used Zeraora several times on the channel, and we did a competitive decks episode on him as well, and he's a great boy. He's 1 point faster than Dragapult. So, you know what? Get out of here, Dragapult. Zeraora does get knockoff. It gets its own Plasma Fists, which is a super strong move. It gets Close Combat. It gets Grass Knot for Seismitoad, who always wants to come in on this. It gets Volt Switch. It gets all kinds of stuff. Play Rough. Yeah, Play Rough is really good now too. Yeah, he's just got a bunch of really nice coverage and a bunch of really nice moves, and I think this thing's great, and I absolutely love it. So before we go, let's go ahead and check out very briefly what each of these tiers we're looking at. We're going to look at OU most of the time, just because this is what I primarily play. Dragapult dropping down to 39%, but it's still at number 1. We've explained this already on the channel, so make sure to check out those previous videos, as well as the taking him down. That's a really good episode if you want to know how to beat this thing. Clefable. Clefable has been rising and rising recently, and now he has even more utility now that Unaware is out. So now he can either be offensive with Life Orb, or he can be defensive with Unaware and completely ignore any of your boosts. Especially, I'm looking at you, Komo-o. I'm looking at you, Nasty Plot Hydreigon. You know, I'm looking at you, Bulk Up Corviknight. I'm looking at you, Swords Dance Excadrill. He doesn't care. And then he fires back with like a flamethrower or something. So as long as he's at really good health, which he can be because he has Soft Boiled now, yeah, this thing just got so much better with home dropping. This thing got so much better. He's so good. Corviknight dropping down, we've talked about him on the channel before. Excadrill we have used quite a bit on the channel before. He does so many things. He's so good. Seismitoad we've also talked about before. He's bulky. He can be fast in Rain, which Rain is also really good right now. Yeah, he's just a good boy. Very good boy. Aegislash. He's Aegislash. He's amazing. He does so many good things, especially the choiced sets. Choice sets are really coming around, and they are doing really, really well for him. But he is down to 18%, which is still a really good percentage. Komo-o. Komo-o has been rising and rising ever since he got access to Clangorous Soul, and it's not a Z move that literally does nothing. And plus the Throat Spray. Yeah, he's really good now. I really appreciate him being up here. Hydreigon as well. Hydreigon being a premier threat in OU is awesome. I absolutely love this mon. And now that it gets sub Nasty Plot, well, I mean, I already had sub, but Nasty Plot, it's awesome. I love seeing him. He's also a really good Scarfer, but he also appreciates the special attack boost. So, you know, whichever one you want. Ferrothorn's Ferrothorn. He's got good typing. He's got really good defenses. He's got all of the hazards. He's got Leech Seed. He's got everything you want. If he had Rapid Spin, this thing would literally be number one, like every single time. Mandibuzz. Mandibuzz is a awesome wall on either side, whichever one you want. And its typing just lends it to being a really strong defensive mon, and it's a really great defogger. It gets foul play, which is great for all your physical attackers that are running around everywhere. He's a good boy. I love him. I use him on a lot of teams. Plus U-Turn. U-Turn's great for utility as well. So let's go quickly through what is not in the top 10. Cinderace, we've used him a ton on the channel. Choice Banded or Boots with the Court Change. Really cool, really great utility. Zeraora we just talked about. Rotom Heat, of course, being the new best Rotom. He's really good. He covers a lot of options. And of course, having Volt Switch, his 4x weakness, he's immune to. Just having Levitate, which is awesome. Good mon. Bisharp, we've used him a little bit on the channel. I think we used him once or twice on the channel. Defiant. Defiant is huge, especially with Sticky Web being pretty prominent right now. A lot of people really like to run Sticky Web, myself included, and he appreciates that. And Defog as well. Anything that lowers his stat, he gets +2. And once this thing gets +2, yeah, you might want to run for the hills because this thing's crazy. Toxapex, this thing's ridiculously stupid. It's so bulky. It has a great typing. It does so many good things. Dracovish, oh god, this fish, he's so strong. He hits so hard with Vicious Rend. We've got regular Dugtrio. He gets Sucker Punch. He gets Arena Trap, which is his biggest thing. He gets Rocks. He gets Reversal. He gets all kinds of really cool stuff. He's a good boy. Conkeldurr, bulky, hits hard, has priority. Guts, Iron Fist, he's good. Cloyster, I'm glad to see Cloyster sticking around, but with a defense stat like he has, and with the metagame being so physical, again, Cloyster is going to do well. And Shell Smash with White Herb, he's gonna do really, really well, and I'm really excited to see him up here. Togekiss, busted. Hatterene, busted. I mean, just running Trick Room and then just murdering everything. He doesn't even have to boost with Calm Mind, but he can if he wants to. Grimmsnarl, best screen setter in the game right now. Really strong offensively too if you want to do a bulk up set. Prankster is just such a good ability for him. He does really, really well. And we've got Terrakion, who survived. I missed him in the other one, but Terrakion, really strong. Earthquake, Swords Dance. He can run Swords Dance, Life Orb. He can run Banded. He can run Scarfed. I've run both on the channel, I think, or I've at least built teams with both. I don't know if I've shown them off yet, but yeah, he's really strong. And just the Edgequake combination, and then with close combat, yeah, there's not much that takes that. There's not much in the game that takes that at all. At least not well. Plus it gets quick attack if you want some kind of priority, which is situationally really cool. Mew literally does anything you want, and now it gets soft boiled, and now it gets access to like a bunch of moves that it didn't before. Soft boiled is just the first one to come to mind. Yeah, it's huge. Also, another thing that happened is Toxic that I haven't mentioned. A lot of things here now get Toxic that didn't before, and it's completely made them that much better. So Aegislash, I would say, will probably go up now that it gets Toxic again. And of course, there are a bunch of other things, but that's just what's in the top 10. Sylveon, great Wish Passer. It's one of the best clerics in the game right now, as well as hitting super hard with Hyper Voice boosted with Pixelate, as well as having access to Mystical Fire in order to hit Ferrothorn. Really good boy. Kyurem at 26. So not only beating out quite a bit, but like a good chunk of the rest of OU. I mean, he's a good boy. I'm really glad to see him doing that, and he did better than Darmanitan, which I was surprised to see that Kyurem is doing better than Darmanitan. But I mean, Freeze Dry just completely changed his moveset around to being really good, and he's very good for anti-rain. So yeah, and speaking of that, Pelipper sets the rain. That's what he does. He's good. Gengar having Nasty Plot, Gengar running a Sash or a Scarf. He's just busted strong. There's no pursuit anymore. There's no way to revenge kill him. He just kind of runs through. Keldeo, we already talked about. Mimikyu, we've talked about Mimikyu in taking them down. He's very strong, and his ability really helps to keep him there. I think he's going to stick around in OU. Tyranitar, I mean, he's a pseudo-legendary. What do you want? He's got amazing stats, amazing move pool. He hits like a truck. He sets sand. Yeah, he's Excadrill's best friend. It's fine. Obstagoon. I love seeing Obstagoon up here. People are finally realizing just how strong this thing is, and he's so good. He's such a good mon. Yeah, he's great. He has such good coverage. He gets like a lot of good coverage. 3 great abilities. Yeah, he's just awesome. I love him. We've got Rotom Wash. Really great defensive mon. Really great defogger now that Rotom gets defog again. It gets Volt Switch. Hydro Pump always hits really good. It's a great mon. Jirachi, we already talked about him, but he's awesome. And Torkoal coming up all the way to 35. Ditto continuing to drop. I'd say he will be out of OU in a couple months. He'll probably stick around next month, but I would say after that he'll probably be gone. Then we've got Hippowdon making it all the way up here, which we already talked about him. Melmetal made it to 38, and he was legal for 3 days. How did this happen? He must have been on literally every single team for those 3 days, which, I mean, mind you, I used him in those 3 days, and so I contributed to these stats, and basically every team I ran into had a Melmetal, so I would believe that literally every team had a Melmetal, but it made it to 38 and made it like to the OU cutoff, even though he got banned in 3 days. That's crazy. That's absolutely insane, and I think that is the craziest thing on this whole list, is that he made it to number 38 in the OU statistics when he got banned in 3 days. Crazy. And then we've got Darmanitan, which we already talked about. He's just really strong. So that is all for our OU analysis. As you know, that's really what we really the only thing we talk about on the channel is the OU metagame, because, you know, if we're going to use lesser used stuff, I want to be able to beat the best things with the lesser used stuff. So this is what we really focus on the channel. But if you guys would love to see lower tier stuff, let me know, and I'll see about building me a lower tier team, and we'll just see where that goes. But so yeah, let me know what you guys think about all of the new changes to the metagame. I don't think that the top 10 is anything drastic, but adding in all of these mons from home has really shifted around a lot of things in the tier. Just like, you know, Kyurem, Zeraora, all of those mons down there in the 11 through 39, there's a lot of changes that happened there, and a lot of stuff got kicked down to UU. And then of course Torkoal coming all the way up to OU in order to help out Darmanitan and Venusaur, I think is pretty crazy. So let me know what you guys thoughts are down in the comments below. And yeah, that is going to be all for today's video. Now tomorrow we're going to be having a Wi-Fi Wednesday, which is going to be pretty cool. We've got a really neat Wi-Fi battle coming for you with a really interesting set on a really cool mon that just came over with Pokemon Home. So that's your hint, and I hope you guys are looking forward to that. But anyway, guys, I will see you next time. Bye-bye.